Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar. Today I'll be introducing the new Proprio Foot, covering the features and benefits, how to set up and program using the Össur Logic app, and also Cathy Howells will be highlighting physio training considerations for the Propio as well. We'll also take a closer look at the challenges that amputees face with respect to trips and falls, and the medical benefits that the Proprio can provide for the end user. So I'm just going to give you a bit of background on the Propio. Össur launched the world's first microprocessor-controlled ankle-foot system back in 2006. And since then, the ProFlex family was launched, which introduced carbon fiber technology that provides great ankle range of motion and significantly greater ankle power than conventional carbon fiber feet. And we're now excited to launch the new Proprio, which combines the dynamics of a ProFlex LP and Propio technology. I'm just going to run through the new features for the new Proprio. It's now weatherproof for freshwater splashing and use in wet and humid environments. It's got the same weatherproofing as the Rio knee, so you can get it very wet if you get caught in the rain, just as long as it's fresh water. The usability has been improved, so you can now simply hook it up to the Össur Logic app and program it, and also the user interface button has been simplified for ease of use. The ankle now adapts faster to terrain for both stair and ramp adaptation, and the battery is now integrated, just making it a lot easier for you to fit it. The ankle also has increased range of motion and excellent stance dynamics from the ProFlex LP foot module. So I'm just going to go through some of the core main functions of the Proprio. So it features mid-swing dorsiflexion, which lifts the foot into 4 degrees of dorsiflexion, reducing the likelihood of tripping over objects by giving the user increased toe clearance during swing. The user can also adjust the ankle alignment to accommodate for barefoot walking, all the way up to 5 centimeters of adjustment for a variety of shoes, just making it easier for the user to switch between shoes without them having to compromise their alignment. The stair adaptation of the Proprio, the feature just means that the foot will adapt to provide a dorsiflexion in stance for both stair descent and ascent, allowing for a more physiological way of negotiating the stairs. And the foot will also adapt to the surface angle of a ramp for both ascent and descent, providing the user with more stability, comfort and safety than a standard carbon fiber foot. The Proprio also features a relax mode to allow for a more comfortable sitting, and a chair exit mode providing 5 degrees of dorsiflexion for an easier way of standing up from a chair. So the Proprio is recommended for users of low to moderate activity levels with a maximum user weight of 125 kgs. And it's really ideal for both unilateral and bilateral transtibials. And unilateral transfemorals will also benefit from the Proprio due to the toe clearance and the terrain adaptation. However, a case-by-case assessment is recommended for a bilateral transfem or for users with limited residual limb control. So the ankle range of motion for the new ankle is 33 degrees, and that's split into 19 degrees of dorsiflexion and 14 degrees of plantarflexion. And with this range of motion, the ankle unit can adapt up to a 15-degree ramp and still provide the 4 degrees of toe lift during swing. The average range of motion of just the carbon foot module itself is about 16 degrees. So if the unit is turned off or if the user runs out of battery, they'll still get a good range of motion and compliance from the foot. Unity is also available for the Proprio for users with sizes 25 to 30. And it's now in our new catalogue, and this includes the category selection guide just to find the right category depending on the user's weight and the impact level of the user. So there are 2 foot covers available for the Proprio, and it'll just depend on the selected size as to which one you'll get. So the smaller foot sizes of 22 to 24 come with a narrower foot cover, and that features a lower opening. And this is the same foot cover that comes with the smaller sizes of the ProFlex LP line. And then your larger sizes of 25 to 30, they'll just be fitted with the standard foot covers that come with the other members of the ProFlex family. And both of these foot covers feature the sandal toe feature as well. So there's a 2-year warranty that's included with the foot. However, you can actually purchase extended warranties for either 1 year or an additional 3 years, and this just needs to be purchased within a year of the original purchase date. So just contact us or customer service for further information and pricing on this, or you can refer to the catalogue and the price list as well. So this is just a comparison table for the new Propio versus the old version. I've highlighted here the increase in the ankle range of motion, which is now 33 degrees, and that comes from having the more compliant foot module of the ProFlex LP as opposed to the previous version, which had an LP VariFlex module. Stair adaptation now occurs after the first prosthetic step, as opposed to 2 steps with the previous version. And the Propio now takes 3 steps to adapt to 85% of the surface angle on a ramp. Users actually typically perceive the device as already adapted when it has reached more than 50% of the surface angle. And it can adapt up to 15 degrees, as I've mentioned, and still provide that 4 degrees of mid-swing dorsiflexion. And another improvement is that mid-swing dorsiflexion will now occur at even slower speeds of 1.4 kilometers an hour. And this means it just widens the scope of use for your lower active K2 slow speed walkers that will benefit from the increased safety that the increased toe clearance provides. There are also some differences between the height and the weight of the device. However, market acceptance testing show that the unit is perceived as lighter because of the dynamics of the foot module. Össur Logic connectivity just makes it very simple and easy to program. And you can now also connect to a Rio knee at the same time if you're doing a fitting for both. So I'm just going to go into some more details with regards to these features of the Propio. With the swing dorsiflexion, the foot will provide 4 degrees of toe lift, and that's initiated after the first 2 prosthetic side steps. And the minimum speed that this will occur for on both ramps and level ground is 1.4 kilometers an hour, and for stair ascent it is 1.2. So the foot will not provide any toe lift during stair descent, and that's just because of stability purposes. So if the user is walking at a speed of less than 1.4 kilometers an hour, no toe lift during swing and no terrain adaptation will occur. And now that this minimum speed is lower, it just means that lower active, slow speed walkers will also be able to use the device successfully as well. I'm just going to run through this video, and it's just showing the benefit of the mid-swing dorsiflexion. So in this video, it shows a difference in toe clearance between a standard carbon fiber foot, in this case it's the ProFlex XC, and then with a Propio alongside it. And there's a study by Rosenblatt that showed that there's actually a 70% difference in minimum toe clearance with the Propio foot versus a standard carbon fiber foot. And this is basically going to help to reduce the risk of having any trips and falls by having this additional toe clearance. The ramp adaptation feature helps to increase symmetry, providing increased stability and also less strain on the knee, as well as a more natural rollover for the user in comparison to a standard carbon fiber foot. I do have another video which is just going to show the mid-swing dorsiflexion in action. It's providing enough toe lift during swing to not contact the object on the floor. And you guys might be getting a bit of a lag with the video. These videos will be available when we upload the webinar in future, just so you can see them a bit more clearly if you're having any issues. So just to summarize this feature, the benefit of having mid-swing dorsiflexion means there is increased ground clearance for the user during swing, providing safety, and meaning there's going to be a reduced risk of trips and falls. I'm just going to hand you over to Cathy.
Thanks, Sarah. When the amputee is more confident in clearing the foot during swing, the propensity for hip hitching on the amputated side is reduced. This in turn decreases the incidence of initiating prosthetic swing prematurely and improves the efficiency of gait because a strong toe off is reached, and so the benefit can be gained from the ProFlex aspect of the foot. As I just mentioned, the new Propio offers the advantage of the ProFlex LP energy return. To use this, we need to train our users to end their prosthetic stance phase with a strong toe-off position. This means that the hip on the prosthetic side will be high and in a mechanically advantaged position to proceed into swing. Using the toe lever improves gait pattern by producing equal step length and smoother progression onto the sound limb. Training strategies for achieving a strong toe-off can include hip extension, range of movement and strengthening exercises, strengthening of the extensor mechanism for the transtibial amputee, as well as eccentric and concentric inner range knee control exercises, and resisted gait training. More ideas for all of these training methods can be found in the Optimising Outcomes series of webinars on the Össur Australia website.
Thank you, Cathy. So just moving on to the ankle alignment feature, this can be performed by both the user and the prosthetist, either by using the app or by pressing the interface button on the Propio. So the ankle alignment will allow the user to walk barefoot or use shoes up to a heel height of 5 centimetres without compromising their alignment. So during the initial setup, the ankle alignment will be performed by the prosthetist, but then afterwards the end user will then perform this at home by themselves when they're changing their shoes. So you just need to educate the user on the ways in which you can do that. So there's 2 ways that both the user and the prosthetist can set the ankle alignment. The user can position their prosthesis onto a flat surface with their shoe on, connect to the Össur Logic app, go into ankle alignment and press start. The ankle will then move into a neutral position. There's also a slider bar in the app if you want to make small adjustments to the ankle alignment to fine-tune it or to set it at a specific angle. So this video is just going to show the slider bar in use, just giving you the full range of the ankle alignment. And then you just press the start on the app and it returns the ankle into a neutral position. The user can also sit with their prosthesis on, with their foot at 90 degrees, or alternatively have the prosthesis off and positioned on a flat surface, and then they just need to press the user interface button twice on the device itself, and the foot will then move into a natural position also. So after performing the ankle alignment, the device needs to be adjusted to the user's gait, just using dynamic alignment. And during auto-adjustment, the user's specific gait parameters will be recognized and the device will calibrate it to the specific user. And this ensures that you get accurate and consistent terrain detection from the foot. So it only takes 15 steps to perform, and it has to be done on a flat surface with the user walking in a straight line only. And during these 15 steps, it is actually now possible to stop, do a U-turn, and continue to walk if space is limited, which is not possible with the previous version. One of the great benefits of the Propio is its ability to adjust to the surface angle of a ramp to allow for stable and comfortable ambulation. The device will continue to offer toe lift and swing for both ramp descent and ascent, but in addition, the ProFlex adapts and stance to the surface angle of the ramp, up to 15 degrees. The ankle angle that the foot will adjust to can be modified by the prosthetist for the individual user. So for instance, you can lower the amount the foot adapts to a ramp in descent for an active user who wants to descend quickly down a ramp and doesn't need the foot to fully adapt to the surface angle. Alternatively, you can increase the amount the foot adapts for a lower activity user to keep the foot on the ground for longer, giving them more stability and helping to reduce socket pressures. So the default setting for ramp adaptation has been found to be comfortable for the majority of users. However, for the more active user, you can consider lowering the descent value to around 30%, and that's going to increase the use of the dynamics of the foot blade, and the user can descend quicker. Otherwise, for less active or more insecure users, as I've mentioned, you can consider increasing this descent value to get more adaptation of the ankle and create more stability, keeping their foot on the ground for longer, and again, helping to reduce those socket pressures. By setting the adaptation at 0, it's going to disable any adaptation that the foot will do. So as mentioned, the ramp adaptation setting controls the adaptation as a percentage of the surface angle. So in this example, both ramp ascent and descent are set to 100% adaptation. Ramp ascent is shown in the top right-hand corner of the graph. If the surface angle is 10 degrees and the device adapts to 100% of that angle, then the angle at which the foot will adapt to will be 10 degrees. And this is the same for the ramp descent in the lower left corner. When you change the ramp ascent settings to 65% and the surface angle is 10 degrees, an adaptation of 6.5 degrees occurs at the foot. The next graph shows the difference in speed of the ramp adaptation. So the black line is the surface angle, and in this graph we're comparing the old Proprio foot, shown by the grey line, and the new Proprio foot, shown by the orange line. The difference between the grey and orange lines shows us the improvement in the speed of adaptation. So users typically perceive the device as already adapted when it has reached more than 50% of the surface angle, and in this case, with the new Proprio, it takes 3 steps to reach 85% of the surface angle, which is much faster than the previous version, which actually took 8 steps. The plantarflexion and dorsiflexion adaptation of the ankle unit on different terrains, for example when ascending or descending ramps, will result in the pressure forces inside the socket to be more like level ground walking. The adaptation will also improve the placement of the center of mass because the body posture is more physiological, which also leads to an improved rollover. This more physiological body posture, which improves the position of the knee over the foot, will be beneficial for the users by providing more comfort on different terrains, as well as less effort when walking.
Proprio increases the ease of symmetrical ramp ascent due to improved foot clearance, progression of over the foot, and ability to increase sound side stride length. The user will need to be trained to keep an upright posture and to strongly extend the affected side hip. Maintenance of an erect posture is essential for both transtibial and transfemoral amputees to perform a leg-over-leg ramp descent. For the transfemoral amputee, this ensures optimal body alignment for ideal step length, yield of the Rio, and prevention of forced extension of the hip joint on the affected side. Transtibial amputees will need emphasis on eccentric and concentric control exercises to assist in the smooth transition of the body weight over the foot.
Thanks, Cathy. The adaptation in stairs is to be set in the Össur Logic app, and it has a range from 0 to 6 degrees. The foot will adapt for both ascent and descent after the first full prosthetic step. So the preferred way is to start with the sound side so that the device will get a clear input of the first swing phase going up or down the stairs to the second step. And as a default, this feature is turned off because it is suitable for your transtibial users. However, its use will need to be considered for an individual basis for a transfemoral user, and that will just depend on their knee componentry and the user's hip control. So using the app, you can select the amount of preferred dorsiflexion that the foot will adapt to whilst ascending and descending the stairs, again anywhere from 0 to 6 degrees. So this video shows an example of the foot which is adapted into stair ascent, providing increased dorsiflexion to allow for a better foot position on the stair and an easier knee flexion, reducing the likelihood of excessive knee hyperextension.
The improved biomechanics offered by increased dorsiflexion of the ankle means that positioning of the body weight over the prosthetic foot is more easily achieved. Less activation of the quads and glutes in a more normal posture for stair ascent will mean that leg-over-leg stair ascent will be an option for a greater number of transtibial prosthetic users. With the feature turned off, you can see hyperextension in the knee in the top slide. With Proprio, more of the prosthetic foot remains on the step in stair descent, improving user confidence and enabling a greater number of transtibial amputees to descend stairs using the leg-over-leg method. Inner-range knee control exercises are of benefit here to assist in smoothing the transition of the body weight over the foot in stair descent.
So similar to the situation in ramps, the dorsiflexion adaptation during stair ascent and descent helped the pressure forces in the socket stay similar to that of level ground walking. So during stair descent, stance phase dorsiflexion adaptation allows for that easier knee flexion, which improves the physiological position of the center of mass, resulting in that smoother transition onto the non-prosthetic side. And during stair ascent, stance phase dorsiflexion adaptation allows for that easier knee flexion, reduces the likelihood of excessive knee extension that you can see in these photographs. And both of these adaptations lead to increased comfort for the user. And in addition to this, the ankle adaptation allows for proper and safe foot placement on the stairs, leading to increased stability and safety for the user. So in the Össur Logic app, you'll find two predefined profiles, one for transfemoral user and one for transtibial user. The transfemoral profile, which is the default profile, features no adaptation of the foot in stairs. And that's because to stay in control of the prosthetic knee, the user might want to position the foot on a specific position on the step to control their knee flexion. An adaptation of the foot might interfere with this strategy and reduce their safety. Of course, this just depends on the type of knee and the walking style of the user, and it can be manually adjusted if requested. For a transtibial user, a predefined profile is available with 4 degrees stair ascent adaptation and 2 degrees stair descent adaptation. And then you can also then modify this to suit the user. So both the transtibial profile and the transfemoral profile, they're stored in the profile section in the Össur Logic app. So in addition to adaptation in stairs and ramps, the device also adapts when a seated position is recognized, and it allows for an easier standing up when standing up is also recognized. So the relaxed mode is just detected when the leg is out in front and while you're sitting, with the shank tilted to more than 30 degrees and the foot is still. And once detected, the foot will move into maximum plantar flexion. It will move the foot into this flat position on the ground, and it results in a more comfortable sitting position for the user. And it can help to reduce socket pressures when the user is sitting down. This feature is also activated when kneeling as well, just to allow for a more comfortable and balanced kneeling. The chair exit mode is detected when the foot either moves backwards or sideways from the relaxed position. And the backwards movement is a natural movement that you would do to stand up from a chair. And once detected, the foot will move into 5 degrees of dorsiflexion to allow for easier standing up. In the next swing phase, the ankle will then just move back into the neutral position. So this is just a video of the relax and chair exit mode in action. Once the foot's gone into full plantar flexion, the user can sit at a more comfortable angle, helping to reduce those socket pressures when they're sitting. And then the foot's going to move into that 5 degrees of dorsiflexion when moving the foot back, helping the user to stand up. So Cathy's going to give you some interesting exercise to do now.
Thanks, Sarah. I think it's always a good thing to be able to appreciate what our clients have to deal with. So with this ankle appreciation exercise, we're going to prepare to stand from the seated position. Place your feet under your knees with your ankles in plantar grade. Now try to stand without allowing your knees to move forward. So we don't want any dorsiflexion of the ankle. Come on, I can see you.
Cathy's watching
so
you.
let's do it to appreciate what transtibial and in particular bilateral transtibial amputees go through. And you'll realise when you do try it how difficult it is to rise from a chair without dorsiflexing at the ankle. And this is the reason why. We can see here that the increased dorsiflexion of the proprio on the right is going to increase the ease of standing from the seated position. On the left-hand side, we can see the proflex foot, which does have a little bit of help with dorsiflexion, but not nearly as much as the proprio on the right. So we're going to see with the proprio enhancement of posture to assist the hip and knee extensors to propel the body weight over the foot to a standing posture. Resisted gait training exercises, like resisted sit to stand, are of benefit in helping this function. It increases the amount of weight taken through the prosthesis during the movement and thus reduces the strain on the sound side.
Thanks, Cathy. So the chair exit feature will increase this dorsiflexion when standing up, and that's shown by figure A. And then when the user loads the carbon fibre foot module, it will then allow for even more dorsiflexion, shown by figure B. So both dorsiflexion movements will ease this process of standing up and increase symmetry, as both legs should and can be used during this movement. And that just helps to reduce load on the sound side. So the new foot Propio now has an automatic cycling recognition feature, and the foot will detect the cycling movement when the user is pedaling, and that just results in the foot holding a neutral position. It disables all motor movement until the user gets off the bike and then just begins walking again. The user can also now access the standby mode on the user app, and it's used to disable all motor movements, which is particularly beneficial for safety when driving, as it's going to prevent any unwanted motor movements. The user can also turn off the device by holding the button on the foot module with the same effect as well, but otherwise they can just go into their app and just pop the foot on standby. Össur Logic can generate activity reports to help to monitor the user's progression. So this is great because you can get 4 different kinds of reports that are available, looking at the speed that the user has been ambulating at. It will show a step histogram as well. It will also show the distance covered, and also surface histograms are available in terms of terrain negotiated. And this can be particularly useful for providing additional information during your trial or support for applications for funding. Charging the device to 90% just takes approximately 3.5 hours, and to fully charge it takes approximately 4. And the battery life is about 18 to 36 hours depending on usage. So we just recommend that you charge the device at night time because you can't overcharge the battery. You can check the status of the battery simply by pressing the interface button just once on the foot, and the amount of LEDs that are green will indicate the battery status, and each LED represents 10%. The user can also check the battery status in their user app as well. So to perform proper bench alignment, first fit the foot with the user's shoe and adjust to the appropriate heel height using the ankle alignment feature, either in Össur Logic or by pressing the button on the user face itself. Ensure that the appropriate angles of your flexion and extension and your abduction and adduction are also figured out. And then you just want to bisect the socket at mid-patellar tendon level and drop the load line through the posterior third of the foot. And this posterior third position is marked on the inside wall of the foot cover for ease of your reference as well. And once you've had this set, just get the user to don the prosthesis, and then you're going to go ahead and perform your static and dynamic alignment. As mentioned, you can now use Össur Logic to connect to both the Proprio Foot and also rear knee at the same time using an iOS device, and this just helps to make programming even easier. There is a recommended fitting sequence for the Proprio Foot. You just want to start, obviously, by just turning on the device and establishing a connection to the Össur Logic app, and then perform the ankle alignment with their shoe on and continue to set up the prosthesis with the recommended bench alignment. And then after this, you're going to do your static and your dynamic alignment just to fine-tune the prosthesis to the user. And once you're satisfied with this, it's then recommended to perform auto-adjustment, and that's going to calibrate the foot to the user. And once this is complete, the device is basically ready to go, and then you can just work through the user's preference for relax and chair exit modes and the stair adaptation if that's applicable. And then if you can find a ramp that the user can walk up and down on, you can then proceed to finally adjust ramp adaptation to the user's preference as well. And then finally, you can explain the cycling and the standby mode and their applications. And as I mentioned, the standby mode is particularly important for safety when driving because it will disable all those motor movements. So now I'm going to run through some of the medical benefits of the Proprio Foot. And the first few slides are going to focus on falls, which is highly relevant in the amputee population. So this Miller study actually had a high number of participants. They actually looked at a group of 435 amputees, the majority of which were transtibial. And they found that 52% of these subjects actually reported falling in the past 12 months. And 49% of amputees in the study reported a fear of falling, which can really limit what an amputee does on a daily basis, as fear of falling can be a very limiting factor in daily life in terms of their confidence and their potential to avoid certain activities due to this fear. And they also found that of those 52% of amputees that fell, 76% of them reported fear of falling again. And this again just highlights the fear and potential limitation that amputees may feel in their daily lives. So transfemoral amputees also have a high risk of falling, and the Kaufman study on amputees found that 40% of falls result in injury, and 1 out of 2 amputees who fall will require medical attention. And this statistic is much higher than for the non-amputated elderly population, in which injury is estimated to occur in 30% of falls. So people with an amputation are at increased risk of falling compared with age-matched non-disabled individuals. And this may partly reflect amputation-related changes to minimum toe clearance that could increase the incidence of trips and falls. So this study by Rosenblatt looked into the contribution of an actively dorsiflexion prosthesis to minimum toe clearance in comparison to a standard carbon fiber foot. And it was found that regardless of condition, the minimum toe clearance was approximately 70% greater with the Proprio foot. And due to the significantly larger minimum toe clearance that the Proprio foot provides, there is a decreased likelihood of tripping and therefore a decreased likelihood of falling, increasing the user's safety. The next study shows that users have reported fewer stumbles and falls with the Proprio foot when you compared it to their previous prosthesis. So on average, over a 4-week trial, the number of reported stumbles decreased from 9.9 in their previous prosthesis to 5.3 with the Proprio foot. The number of reported falls also decreased significantly by 70%, which is a big number when using the Proprio foot. And this slide looks at ascending and descending stairs in more detail, comparing neutral ankle angle versus a 4-degree adaptation. The study shows that with a neutral ankle angle, the knee flexion is restricted because of the limited dorsiflexion range. A 4-degree ankle angle adaptation, however, for both stair ascent and descent enables an improvement of knee kinetics and kinematics, resulting in an increased knee flexion moment. And this results in a more physiological knee flexion during stair ascent and descent. And with the Proprio foot, because the ankle is pre-positioned into an individually selected ankle dorsiflexion, it allows for that deeper positioning onto the step, and that is what results in this more natural kinetics and kinematics on the prosthetic side. And it just also allows the users to descend with more confidence down the stairs in a more cyclic and natural pattern. This last study I would like to share looks at reduced energy consumption when compared with a dynamic carbon fiber foot with the Proprio foot. So users in the study walked on level ground and on a treadmill at these different angles, and the graph shows the energy cost of walking in the different situations, with the initial fitting done at 30, and then 60, and then 90 days as well. And the results show that the use of the Proprio foot can actually lower the energy cost of walking for transtibial amputees in spite of its added weight when you compare it to a dynamic carbon fiber foot. And the last study, just to summarize all of this, the amputee population reports an increase in falls, as well as them having a fear of falling, which I mentioned can really limit their activity and greatly affect their confidence. And the studies have shown that after a fall, 1 in 2 amputees will also require medical attention as well. So when you're using the prosthetic, the Proprio foot, an increase in ground clearance can really help to decrease the trips and falls. And the stair adaptation feature results in a more natural stair ascent and descent. And it's also been shown to reduce energy consumption of the user as well. And there is a white paper that's available to download from our website. And this highlights all the medical benefits that I've just discussed. It puts them in a bit more detail, and it's also complete with references as well. So you can download from the website, but let us know if you'd like a copy, and we can email it to you also.